Ain't about your bread and I can't fuck with ya. I thought you was 100, but you showed me 50. You said you was gonna ride, huh? And the coupe that's parked outside, that bitch looks so expensive. I bet it cut your eye, huh?
Look, bro, we back in this bitch with another video, you feel me? We got the newest Range Rover, you feel what I'm saying? This shit's called the new 2023 Range Rover Sport. It's beautiful, high-tech, and minimalist, you feel me? Yeah, I love cars, I love money, I love housing, I love all that. See, I just stay tuned, because once I get that, y'all might see it, you might not. You probably gonna see it every now and then, you know what I'm saying? Look up, bro, we finna hop into the video, though, bro, no cap.
This is the new 2023
I'm not a big fan of
Range
Range
Rover
Rovers,
Sport,
maybe
and it's
this
been
video
fully
might persuade
redesigned inside and out. This is a big deal for luxury SUV fans because it's been almost a decade since the Range Rover Sport was fully redesigned, but the new one is here, and today I'm going to take you on a thorough tour of it. Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids, which is my enthusiast car auction website for cool cars from the modern era, now with 3 listings. You can list your cool car for free and auction it on Cars and Bids.
I'm finna get a
And we've had
Sprinter
some
van,
great sales recently, including this
Escalade.
80 series Toyota Land Cruiser, which brought $33,000. These are shooting up in value. This 993 Porsche
AMG
911 Cabriolet
G-Wagon.
sold for $120,000. Great money for a great
Demon.
car. And this Shelby GT350 brought almost $54,000. If you're looking to buy or sell a cool enthusiast car from the modern era, the 1980s and up, Cars and Bids is the place to do it. With daily auctions and great selection at carsandbids.com. So let's talk Range Rover Sport.
Tesla on 4G
This
autos.
first came out more than 15 years ago as a smaller, more affordable alternative to the full-size Range Rover. In the years since, this has become a tremendously popular vehicle, and now this is the new one, the 3rd generation model, which is coming out just after a fully redesigned new version of the full-size Range Rover, which I showed off in a thorough video tour a few months ago. The new Range Rover Sport is just being revealed for the first time right now, and in fact, it was just shown to the world for the very first time shortly before I filmed this video. So, I can't drive it just yet, but I can take you on a thorough tour of the new Range Rover Sport and show you some of its quirks and features. So, let's get started. Alright, I'm going to start the quirks and features of the new Range Rover Sport with a quick look at the different versions available. The lineup is actually pretty simple, and it starts off with a base model called the P360 SE that has about 355 horsepower from a turbocharged 6-cylinder, and it starts around $83,000. Now, that's a big price increase compared to the outgoing Range Rover Sport base model, which started around $10,000 cheaper. But Land Rover tells me that the new base model Sport is equipped to actually around the mid-level of the outgoing Range Rover Sport, and so this price increase isn't as significant as you might think once you factor in the additional equipment and, of course, other updates and changes for the new model. Now, the next version is the P400 model, which uses the same powertrain as the base model, except with a little extra horsepower, around 395, and that starts around $90,000. But more interesting than those first 2 models in the range is the next one, which is called the P440E Autobiography. It's 440E for electric because that is a plug-in hybrid model. It can travel for around 50 miles on fully electric power before switching over to the gasoline engine. Interestingly, this is the only way you can get the Autobiography in the Range Rover Sport lineup if you get the plug-in hybrid version. That's the only way they're offering it this time around, which is interesting. Now, that version has 435 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, and it starts around $104,000, which is pretty good. And Land Rover tells me that it's capable of fast charging to the point where it can fully recharge its roughly 50-mile range in about 40 minutes, which is pretty quick. Now, the top-end model at the pinnacle of the Range Rover Sport model range is this one, the P530, which is the first edition, and it's offered with a turbo V8. This is the only way that you can get the V8, at least for the first model year, in the first edition model. It has an amazing 500 225 horsepower, pretty strong, and it'll do 0 to 60 in the mid 4-second range, so it is a serious performer and a very fast vehicle. Starting price for this one will be around $121,500, so it gets pretty pricey, but you get a lot in terms of performance and equipment, which I'll show you. Now, although that's the model line for now, I suspect things are going to change in the coming years. For instance, like I said, the V8 is only offered in the first edition model for 23, but I suspect it will expand to other trim levels in future model years when there will be no first edition anymore. Also worth pointing out, Land Rover says a full electric version of the new Range Rover Sport is on the way for calendar year 2024.
Like
no other details, horsepower, range, that sort of thing hasn't yet been announced, but maybe 2 years from now we're going to see a fully electric new Range Rover, which makes sense because that's kind of the trend in this industry. But anyway, next up, let's talk about the outside of the new Range Rover Sport, which has what Land Rover calls its reductive design language, or you and I would think of as minimalist. But basically, it's simple. It's without major frills or adornments or crazy scoops and hoops like a lot of other cars are starting to gravitate toward. Land Rover has instead decided to kind of keep it simple and basic, and there are several ways you can tell that on the outside of this car. One is the door handles, which are flush into the body when the car is locked. That's becoming kind of a common trend in the industry, but one thing that isn't common is the grille. It's actually smaller than previous models. That's a big deal because everybody else is getting bigger and bigger with their grills. The new Lexus LX 570 grille could eat a small family. This thing is actually getting smaller, more minimalist, more reductive on the outside. And probably the most noticeable place where you see that, and the most notable change compared to the outgoing model, is with the taillights. You can see they're small, thin, horizontal, and mounted on this single band going across the back of the car. Not much fussiness or craziness or weird taillight design back here. Very simple and indeed very reductive, just like Land Rover says. Also worth pointing out, you have kind of a cool line on the side of this car, and that would be where the windows meet the doors. There's no real seam here. Usually you have weather stripping or some chrome trim, but in this car they just kind of meet, almost like you'd see in a concept car, something that shouldn't make production. There should be something there, some protective material or trim, but not here. It's all about kind of reducing the noise and keeping it minimal on the outside. With that said,
yeah, that car, when you don't got like, if you were to look through, like, look at the front of it from the front view, and you put LEDs in the car at nighttime, that shit is hard as fuck. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Tuesday's music video. It's called Sapiosexual. Watch that video, watch that music video, and watch the shorty that pulled up to his crib in the Range Rover. Y'all go check that shit out. But look, for now, to the next vid, bro.